All right, so in the last little section, we worked on ordinary world, inciting incident, and the task that a person has to complete. And most of you, I think we got, when I came around to the table, I talked a little bit about climax and consequences that basically, like, you get the resolution of the task and how that plays out. We only have about 45 minutes left, and so I have a lot to get through. So I'm going to focus on conflict for the last section here, because there are some things that we talked about today that like mostly apply to features, like 3-act structure. Like it's really hard to do 3 acts in a 10-minute film. You know, like you're probably not going to. You're probably going to have it be more like a 1 or 2-act play, and that's fine. But no matter how many acts you have in your film, what I'm about to talk about is the most important thing. Okay? That's the constant. Because let's say this is our first scene, right? Or our first act, our second act, and our third act. Within each one of these acts, your act is made up of sequences. Okay? And each one of these acts will probably have, like the first act will usually have like 3 sequences, the second act will usually have 6, and the third act will usually have 3. Sequences are a series of scenes that kind of go together. For example, the attack on the Death Star at the end of Star Wars is an example of a sequence. There's a lot that happens. You have this scene where they're talking about the strategy for attacking the Death Star. You have the scene where Luke asks Han where he's going and why he's not joining them in the fight. You have the scene where the ships take off and they are approaching the Death Star, and the Death Star is looming over there. And back here at the Rebel base, we can see like the overhead view of the Death Star coming around the planet, coming in range of the moon, and it's going to destroy the base. And then we see like the first wave of attacks, and them just getting decimated. And then we see Darth Vader goes out on his own ship. He's going to now dogfight with the X-Wings and the Y-Wings, and he's going to take them down himself. And then finally, like Luke is one of the last people left, and so he's going to go down the trench. Like, that's all one sequence, okay? And each act is made up of several of those sequences strung together, okay? Another example is the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark. From the time the movie starts to where Indiana Jones is back at the college, you know, he's after this idol, you know, and like they're going through the jungle, and then they get to the temple, and he goes in and he avoids all the traps, and then he trips off the trap, and they have to run away from it, and then they get out there, and there's Belloc is there and steals the idol from him, and the natives chase him, and then he gets on the plane and he flies away. Like, that's all one sequence. So we're not going to have time to do this as an exercise, but with the stories that you guys have written, or the ones that you're going to actually film for the competition, what you want to think about is these sequences and how to build them so that they drive your story forward. These sequences are usually made up of around 3 to 5 scenes. And we're going to get really kind of vague for a minute here, so try and bear with me. Each one of these, on every level, here on the act level, the sequence level, and on the scene level, there needs to be conflict. Okay? If there's ever a scene where there's no conflict happening, that's the scenes that we were talking about earlier, where the guy shows up to work, and he just walks in the door, and then he hangs up his coat, and then he sits down, and then he turns on his computer, but nothing has happened. In order for that to be interesting, like, he has to walk up to the door, and maybe he's locked out, because now there's a conflict. right? And something is in his way of what it is that he wants to do. Like now, like granted, that's not a very big conflict and probably not really engaging and might be a really boring movie, but the level to which the conflict is engaging to the audience, that's the level to which you're going to be interested in what's happening. So anytime you have a scene, you need to make sure there's conflict in it, because every time there's nods, the audience gets a little more bored. And you start stringing these non-conflict scenes together, one after another, and eventually, especially these days with like how quickly people will switch off of something like YouTube or whatever it is, like just online videos, like they're way less patient with that than they are with a feature film. Like when you go to the movies, it's like automatically you're gonna kind of accept the movie for about 5 to 10 minutes. You're pretty much going to let them do what they want and trust them that somehow they're going to engage you in that 5 or 10 minutes. But if they don't, if nothing happens in that 5 or 10 minutes that interests you, what do? You're bored. And you probably never really forgive it for that. Like, it could become really interesting after that, and you still have a sour taste in your mouth about how boring it was for the first time. So each scene needs to have conflict built into it, and the conflict needs to relate to the theme. Your theme, the theme of, just because like this is the one that I've talked about the most, I think, with the people who wrote it. Their story is about a superhero who gains his superpowers by eating different vegetables, fruit, different foods, and they give him different superpowers. So like if he eats carrots, he gets super sight. If he eats broccoli, he gets super speed. And his sidekick is a chef who puts together his meals for him. So basically the chef is like, okay, we're going up against whatever villain. He's going to need a little of this and a little of that. He serves it up to the guy and he goes out and kicks his butt. So what happens in the story is, because the main character is the chef, the superhero is getting all this attention. He's receiving a Man of the Year award, and he doesn't even thank the chef for all the work that he puts into into planning his regimen in order for him to fight these battles. And like the seed of envy starts growing in this guy, and he decides that one day he's not going to make make whatever meal it is that the hero needs in order to win. You know, the kind of show him, see, you need me too, kind of thing. And the hero is captured. And now the world falls into chaos because there's no hero to stop all these terrible things from happening. Okay? Now, I think that's a really cool idea. I think it's really fun. I see it as an animated movie. Like, it's just, I love it. Right from the start, we need to see conflict from the very first scene. There can't be a ton of scenes where, like there can be a couple, because remember we talked about the ordinary world, and the ordinary world here is the chef and the hero working together as friends, okay? But pretty quickly, we need to start, even before the inciting incident happens, because the inciting incident is when the chef decides that he's going to sabotage the hero. Okay? That's the inciting incident. Is when he decides to not cook for him and the hero gets captured. That does not mean that there's no conflict from this point to that point. That would be a terribly boring half hour of a movie. If everything in this section was the chef and the hero fighting side by side, winning every fight, and then all of a sudden, on a dime, the chef turns around and sabotages the hero, one, you'd be bored for this section. And here you'd be like, what? Why is he doing that? Okay? So what you're going to do is look at it and say, all right, well, sequence-wise, we want to see them, we do want to see them in a good place, right? We want to see them fighting and winning. So we're going to put a plus sign here and say, like, they're going to start, actually, we're going to put a plus sign here. We're going to get them, they're going to start out as friends. You know, they're good friends. But by the end of this sequence, we should start seeing a turn in that friendship. We should start seeing the seeds of envy growing in the chef. Like, whether it's the hero, like, kisses the damsel that was in distress and the chef gets shoved to the side, whether it's the newspaper people are clicking photos of the hero and the chef gets shoved to the side and he gives them that, like, oh, look, or whatever. Like, somewhere in there, we got to start seeing this chef not happy with the hero. Now, in the next sequence, it should reverse. Because everything is about the conflict in this character, right? So in this one, so here we've seen why the chef doesn't really like the hero very much. And right here, we should start seeing why he does. Because now we have a conflict between these two things and we're asking ourselves, which one's going to win out? His love for the hero or his dislike for the hero? Okay. Then, we planned it this way so that we end on the negative, where the last thing, the thing that wins out, is one more and this is the scene where he wins the Man of the Year award, you know? And he decides, all right, I'm really going to do it. I'm really going to sabotage this guy. And you can see, like, we've bounced back and forth between this guy's motivation. And so the whole time, we're asking ourselves, like, okay, is he going to get along with this guy? Is he not going to get along with this guy? Oh, shoot, no, he's really not. You know, and that conflict is what's driving the story forward and making you want to watch the next scene. Now, this has to happen on one more level, too. It has to happen at the level of scenes. Because these are sequences. You know, this is going to be like a big sequence where he fights, you know, the mole man. And this is going to be a big sequence where he fights the IT guy. And this is going to be a big sequence where he fights the garbage man. And, like, these are sequences, but the individual scenes need to have conflict in them too. Okay? And these scenes are, think of really great fight scenes. Okay? Like, really memorable fight scenes from movies that you've seen, because this is the easiest place to see it. Somebody throw out a fight scene that they think is really great.
Rocky Balboa.
Rocky Balboa. Okay. Why is Rocky Balboa a great fight scene?
He's losing and then wins.
Because he's losing and then he wins. Right. Would it be interesting if Rocky Balboa got in the ring and just, bang, he won? No. So that's what I'm talking about right here. There's got to be give and take. There's got to be winning and losing within these scenes. Like 1 minute, it looks like they walk into, think of like a great heist movie. You know, like Ocean's 11 or Italian Job or whatever. And they spend all this time at these big tables and they're planning. They got their miniatures and they're like, oh, then you're going to come around here and this is the plan and you're going to be hiding inside the safe and, you know, this whole big plan. And then they go, and what happens? Does the plane go off without a hitch? No. Because always, oh shoot, Julia Roberts shows up. Or, oh no, that car didn't start. Or, oh no, we didn't realize that that guy is actually a cop. And he's in the middle of our thing. Like, they start off on a positive with this great plan. And then the plan goes awry. And then a solution comes up to try and solve the plan. So again, like, we call that a gap opening up. When you're expecting one thing, and then the character is disappointed and has a new conflict to overcome. So I would say, as far as story goes, like, this is the absolute most important thing. If you don't have 3 acts, that's not the end of the world. There are lots of movies that don't have 3 acts. There are movies that have 7 acts. Like, it's fine. But if you don't have conflict in every scene, then you're going to bore your audience. And that conflict should happen at every single level. That conflict should happen, it should almost always revolve around your theme. The theme of this story is selfishness and how destructive it is. All the dialogue in this movie should be about selfishness. Like, nothing in this movie should have anything to do with anything else. It's all about selfishness. If it's not, then it doesn't belong in this movie. It doesn't have to be like really overt, like we're actually talking about selfishness and like the one guy's like, you're too selfish. And he's like, no, I'm not. And I want to be selfish because then who's going to take care of me if I'm not selfish? That would be ridiculous. But every choice that that chef has to be a choice between selfishness and sacrifice. Every one of them should be that choice. So that we see him struggling with, should I be selfish or should I sacrifice? And the villain should be a person who makes those same kinds of choices, but makes them the opposite way that the hero does. So that we can see, this is what happens if you're selfish, this is what happens when you're not. Like, because that's the theme of the movie. That's what they're trying to say with their movie. And this is how you tell that without beating people over the head with it and having an epilogue that actually spells it out in words on, in big title blocks on the screen. I think, are there other questions about that and story specifically?